Well, that was quite a game. Welcome to Pucknology After Dark, the afternoon edition. I'm here with Ian Reed and Chris JWS. If you want to be a part of the show, please use the hashtag Pucknology After Dark at iReadPucknology and at Chris JWS. Gentlemen, good afternoon. I think it's even good afternoon to you, Ian. Kind of crazy, but what was your initial impressions of the game?
Welcome to Pucknology after lunch. Um, yeah, no, it was a good game. You know, the Sharks came out, they played a pretty solid game through all three periods, and then they finally broke through in the third. You know, Henrik Lundqvist made this probably a closer game than it probably should have been. Made some ridiculous saves before he finally caved in and kind of got a leaky boat. But other than that, I mean, the Sharks played a solid game.
I'll go one further. I think they played a dominant game
Yeah,
almost all the way through. They were on top of the Rangers all game long. Honestly, I think Lundqvist probably deserved third star because this game wasn't competitive outside of him holding it together for two periods. So good game by the Sharks. Like great third, but honestly, that was just the goals finally started going in. They just couldn't catch a break early on. They played great and they kept playing great, and it finally paid off.
Yes, and as Laurel likes to point out, I am Eric Laundry. Um,
And we see some in the background today. What kind of selection do we have today?
let's see, we have some pajama pants, we have a bathrobe, we have some more pajama pants, some shirts, some more shirts. So you've got the whole gambit there. You know how Puck Guy has angry tree. Well, I have angry laundry. Um,
I guess I
boys,
have angry bowling pins back here.
Boys, 52 shots on goal. I mean, they were just machines out there, and these were not the typical shoot in the chest kind of Sharks shots that sometimes we see when they're not on their game. These were tough, in the net, grimy kinds of shots. I could not believe the shot output. I mean, they doubled the Rangers on shots, 2-1.
Yep, and they were also getting a lot of quality shots too. I mean, if you look at the chart, I'll send a graphic over to you maybe in a little bit, but they were peppering him from the slot. Like they were not just getting shots from the outside; they were getting shots everywhere, but heavy concentration in the slot, and that's quality and quantity.
Well, joining us live from outside the tank is Mr. Puck Guy and Jay Alexander. Guys, what was your reactions on scene today?
It was very uplifting. It didn't start off that crazy, but you saw that the Sharks had a lot of get up and go, and which is rare for an afternoon game, Gentry.
Oh, I agree with that. I think the Sharks kind of showed some gusto. I mean, later on, I think it took them a little bit because of the early start, but once they got going, they didn't stop. Uh, Kudos to the Sharks. This was a well-played game. I think they should build off of this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, start off the first period with 16 shots on goal is something unreal and kind of set the tone. In fact, if I recall correctly, to refer back to what was it, the 9-2 drubbing that where we all know Hurdle with the
Infamous goal, the controversial goal.
yes, the goal that was disrespectful to the league. They played a similar game where they were just peppering Lundqvist with shots, and it finally got broken down on him later in the third, and you can tell that they were gaining momentum even after Dan Mother Puck and Boyle had that nice goal to tie the game up. But it just seemed like there was a lot more tonight instead of on
They
Thursday.
didn't seem to ease back into it, which was nice because I felt like after that goal from Dan Motherfucking Boyle, on a sweet goal. If that's the last one I witnessed from Boyle at SAP Center, I will take that. But they responded and they didn't get lethargic and be like, oh, it's going to be one of those games. No, they attacked and they kept attacking.
Yeah, they could have been deflated on that 1-1 goal, but no, they fought hard. They fought and really just dominated this game to the point where with 10 minutes to go, this one was pretty much over. I didn't see much oomph out of the Rangers after that fourth goal. So
And if you can chase Henrik Lundqvist out of net, you know you're doing something right.
and that's 2 out of the last 6 times the Sharks have done that. Have chased Lundqvist out of your net at home.
So,
Definitely got to give credit to the Sharks on that.
so Gentry, you must have had just this weird inner feeling of being pulled because Dan Boyle scores against our beloved Sharks. How are you dealing with this internal strife?
It didn't cost us the game, so I'm fine with it. I mean, it was kind of bittersweet because I really wanted to just kind of stand up and give him a round of applause, but I mean, I am in his jersey after all, but I kind of felt like it wasn't bad.
How did Sharks fans greet him?
Very receptive. I think
There wasn't a whole lot of boos when he scored.
No. There was a good cheer. I mean, it's like, sure, they scored against us tie game, but it was Dan.
But I was kind of disappointed with one thing, is that he didn't, after he scored, he didn't look up for Doug Wilson and give him the finger.
I assume they showed him on
He still wanted to play here.
I assume they showed him on the screen at some point, right, during the game.
Yeah, they showed him on early in the game, and there was a big rousing applause for that. But when they announced his name on the goal, definitely a good round of applause. No booing at all.
What was the Rangers Sharks fans split today? It sounded like there was a lot of Rangers fans at the tank. We kept hearing the Zuccarello chant.
They weren't saying Zook, they were saying shoot, because the Rangers didn't win the damn game. No, there's a good
cluster of them. There was a lot of blue today.
Yeah, there was a good chunk of blue. They were trying to get the Rangers chant.
Well, that's to be expected with an original 6 team in town on a matinee Saturday. So, I mean, Rangers fans came out to support. Good for them.
Yeah,
and the Sharks fan needs to start showing up, because today's attendance, wildly, wasn't that big.
Yeah, for 16,888, it was a good crowd on hand. Kind of actually underestimated, I think. I think it was closer to a sellout, but there were some spots where it was empty in this area.
Yeah, and I mean, you know what? The matinee games are kind of always hard to gauge because you've got some stragglers that come in very late into the game because it's not really normal for a 1 o'clock start. You saw some pictures here and there. People were showing, it was maybe 3/4 full. But like I said before, that was very early in the game, so. It was just a really good game. I like how the Sharks did not tiptoe into this one. I felt like after maybe the first couple of minutes getting their legs under them, they were just all go. And really, I mean, besides that one miscue by Dylan and Marlowe, it was a pretty good game defensively. And really, I liked the way that the forwards came back and helped out the defense.
This is one of those things, and I'm sorry to keep barging in, but this is one of those games where you use this game and you show it to the guys and say, this is how do that during the playoffs, because they could have went, oh my God, it's an original 6 team. Oh my God, it's Henrik Lundqvist. Oh my God, we're screwed. They didn't do that tonight. They showed up, they peppered them, they put as much. I think that's the shot total of the year. What was it, 53 shots?
Yeah,
52.
52.
Yep, they doubled them up.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great performance. You want to keep getting shots on goal, throw them on the net. We've always said, throw on the net, see what happens. So, definitely a good one, and I'll say this, it's definitely helping the ticket sales for the Barracuda tonight, too.
Okay.
There's a game at 6 o'clock at the Shark Tank. Of course, they're having the street rally, but also a win like this makes you want to stay in San Jose, go to maybe a nice place like Britannia Arms and have a bite to eat before you go back to the Shark Tank for a game.
Speaking of which, we could use some advertisers, guys.
Yeah, why don't you?
Sponsors?
Pucknology After Dark.
Why do you go talk to Olin and see if he'll be willing to give
we
some
can
of
get him
that
on.
Britannia
Yep.
Arms money? Yeah.
All right, we'll look for him. But guys, have a great job. Any questions, tweet back at us. And if you're watching from the tank, thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. And yeah, back to you, Andy.
His signature sign off. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Thornton takes over 31st overall in the history of the National Hockey League points scored. We've got a graphic thanks to Chris. Let me just pull this up here. And this is of the shot selection tonight, or today, of the Sharks. As you can see, there's a lot of black near the net. And that's a very good thing. And a lot of those point shots that we saw today did get through, and was a lot of crashing. And like I said before, this just goes to show you where the Sharks really put the puck on the net and really tried to get into Hank's kitchen tonight. I don't know, guys, it was just a really dominant performance. And like I said before, we haven't really seen a dominant performance like this. I mean, I don't know, when was the last time we saw a 52-shot game? I think they said they tied the season record for shots on goal tonight, but it just looked like they were taking over this game.
Probably their most dominant performance of the season. I mean, to be perfectly fair, though, to the Rangers, I think this is, their third game in 4 nights or something like that? I know that they're on the tough West Coast swing, so we are catching them on the tail end of a tough swing. But still, dominant effort by the Sharks. They did not let them off the hook. They didn't play, they didn't play down to their level, so to speak. They came out there and they hit them upside the head, and they did not let up. So probably their best 3-period performance all season.
Ian?
Yeah, I mean, exactly what Chris said. They came out, they played hard. They didn't stop. I mean, the one thing with this game was, it was. I said this when I was running the Pucknology account. Like, I could watch that game forever because it was just, even when it was 1-1, the play was so back and forth. It was exciting to watch. I mean, we've watched some really crappy, not just crappy efforts, but just crappy games because of the quality of opponent. When you look at games like against New Jersey and then the Tippett-coached Coyotes, those aren't fun games to watch. But this one was a blast to watch. Even, score aside, this was a fun hockey game.
Well, currently the Sharks are owners of a 6-3 record in March. We've all been saying this. They've got to make hay in March to really solidify their spots in the playoffs. They're trying to chase down the Ducks right now, and they're 1 point behind again. But the Ducks have a game in hand. So if the Sharks happen to win out tomorrow night and catch the Ducks sleeping, that would go a long way to secure their first-round opponent at home. So, I mean, you're starting to see this team make hay, and I really was very happy with the defense tonight. I think they didn't miss a beat with Vlasic going out. DeMello played an admirable game. I mean, he only, let's see, looking at the ice times, DeMello had 17:42. And the player next most was Dylan with 17:44. So, I mean, he was right in round with pretty much all the other defensemen, and he didn't look out of place. His stat line was zeros across the board. He was not plus or minus. So, you know what? He played a steady game.
Yep, and also worth mentioning is the Sharks are now 500 at home for the first time since November 5th. And if they win tomorrow night, they'll be above 500 for the first time since October 24th. I mean, they started out brutal at home, and they actually dug themselves out of that hole.
Another number I came across, too, just out of Joe Thornton tied his, he had 5 game-winning goals in 07-08, and he's tied that this year.
Yes, he did. And we also had a very dominant game by Tomas Hertl with a 3-assist night. I keep saying night, but a 3-assist
career high 3 assists.
Career high 3 assists, and he now takes possession of 4th in scoring on the San Jose Sharks. His stat line through 70 games, 17 points, 24 assists, a plus 16, playing with the big boys, Thornton, Pavelski. Boys, I said this during the game. I think this is the player that we thought we were getting after that 4-goal outburst against the New York Rangers. I think he's finally hit his stride and really blossoming out of that horrific injury that he suffered his second season, or actually first season. Excuse me.
Yeah, definitely, and it's kind of funny that both his career highs are against the Rangers at SAP Center. But yeah, no, it's good. It's good to see. I think they really sparked him putting up there on the top line. As awesome as Burns, Hurdle, and Thornton were, Burns, Pavelski, and Hurdle is pretty damn exciting to watch as well.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what their possession numbers are. You know that Thornton's driving the boat there, but it just seems like Hurdle is just using that big body now to protect that puck, and he's learning from the best.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing too is what I was happy with. Just going back to something that you mentioned earlier, I'm glad that they didn't that they kind of kept all the defense numbers in check, because last year we saw, as far as time on ice goes, because last year when we lost we got people playing just stupid amounts of minutes, and it seems like they spread it out really nice this time around. Yeah, instead of, obviously Brent Burns 24 minutes without Vlasic, that's kind of what you're going to expect. But the fact that they trusted Pollock and Dillon with, and DeMello with all 17 minutes apiece, I think that's significant. Plus, DeMello getting a look on the power play, which I think is a nice something that I think they should do more often too. He had 1:07 power play time.
Yeah.
So the possession numbers real quick for Pavelski and Thornton, they were just straight up dominant. They were plus 15 in shot attempts while they were on the ice at even strength. So they were dominant possession-wise.
So yes, for anybody who's kind of wondering what that means that they were on for 15 shots against New York, right? They were on
plus 15.
Plus 15.
So they shot the puck a lot more than they had it shot at them, which means you're controlling it and you're dictating play.
And for people asking, tonight, later on, we've got the Boston Bruins playing the LA Kings. I believe that's in LA, Boston doing the California Gauntlet. Sunday, we have Anaheim and Winnipeg going at noon Pacific. Mm-hmm. And we've got the Sharks on at 7 o'clock facing the Coyotes at home. Sharks really got a good break in the schedule today and tomorrow, because they have an early game, they get a little bit of extra rest, and then you've got the Coyotes who are flying in tonight. I think we can give the schedule maker a little bit of props for this. I can't believe I'm saying that, but
sorry.
I can't believe it's coming out of my mouth, but yeah, they really cut the Sharks a break here.
Although it is a very rare thing, a back-to-back at home. It doesn't happen very often, but yeah, definitely it works out in their favor in this case. And Coyotes play tonight, I believe, right?
Yes, Coyotes.
Yeah, they play at home.
Yeah, so they play tonight. If they lose tonight, that cuts the Sharks' magic number to 6. If the Sharks beat them tomorrow as well, that would cut their magic number to, I think, not 2 but 3 or 4, depending on what the Canucks have. The Canucks.
Yes.
I did the math in my head.
I think it would be 3 off the top of my head, because the Canucks would be, depending on, I don't know what their schedule is, but basically, at this point, does it really matter that much? Because we know they're making the playoffs. Like, I don't even think an epic meltdown could stop them at this point. Knock on wood.
Exactly. Knock on that wood. The Sharks dig themselves out of the home hole that they put themselves in early this season. They are now 500 at home with a 15-15-3 record. 500 points-wise. They're not 500 wins-wise, because we all know an overtime loss is still a loss. Well, in my book anyways. But they are 500 points-wise, which is incredible, because we did not think that this team could overcome this kind of a hole at home, but they've gotten back to 500.
They were -8 in beginning of January, so that's huge, and that's part of the reason why they're going to make the playoffs, is because their road dominance has continued. I still don't understand it, but they've been great on the road all year long, and they are okay at home, and that's enough. And right now, since the beginning of the year, they have a pretty clear winning record at home. So if they continue that kind of play, they'll be fine in the playoffs, home or away.
Yeah. I'd like to see them pick up another 5 wins at home, and I think, you know what, I think we can put this home road split to bed, and next year they can just start off on a good foot. Going over to the total Western Conference standings picture, LA, of course, still number 1 in the Pacific with 91 points. Anaheim number 2 with 87. The Sharks now at 86 points, but Anaheim and Los Angeles has a game in hand. Shifting over to the Central, Dallas leading the Central Division with 93 points with 72 games played. St. Louis with 91 points, 72 games played. Chicago in third place with 90 points and 72 games played. Nashville first in the wild card with 85 points, 72 games played. Colorado 72 games played, 78 points. Boys, the Pacific Division has games in hand on that Central Division, and the Pacific Division owns a better record in the last 10 combined versus the Central Division. I think the power lies in the Pacific. I don't think it lies in the Central anymore. I think we're starting to see that power shift. What do you guys think?
You know, the thing with the Central is the Central has been so consistently good this year. I mean, that's just a meat grinder of a division. And I don't know if the power shifting so much is just all those games against Nashville and Dallas and Chicago, or, and Colorado, Minnesota. I mean, those are all a lot of, St. Louis. There's a lot of heavy teams in there. I don't know if it's just the schedule kind of, catching up to them a little, whereas halfway through the year, we were talking about how lucky the Sharks were to be in the Pacific Division, and I think that ship has long sailed at this point. But this division was garbage for half the year before the California teams really turned it on. The rest of the division's still garbage. Let's be honest.
Yeah, and you got Minnesota. Just quickly, Minnesota is 1 point behind in the wild card, so there's not going to be a Pacific Division wild card team.
No.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I would definitely say the Central's still better, but the Pacific has brought itself back to respectability, because it was a flaming tire fire, dumpster fire, Ray Ratto, whatever you want to call it. At the beginning of the season, it was horrible. So it's redeemed itself. At least the top teams have. Honestly, the bottom half is still garbage. The Central, top to bottom, is a better division, I think. Yeah. The top teams, it's hard to say. I mean, I don't know until I see them play each other in the playoffs. But I think that at least the Pacific has redeemed itself, and it's no longer they only get in the playoffs because you have to.
Right.
They're actually
the other thing too with the Central, you look at a team like Dallas. Dallas has been kind of okay lately. I don't know their record in the last 10, but you got to think they just got Klingberg back. They've lost Demers. They've lost Taylor Seguin now. I mean, those are some tough injuries to overcome too at just a really crappy time of year. I don't know what's going on with Chicago. Chicago's kind of gone in and out of a death spiral lately. But again, I wonder how much of it's just fatigue from having to play those teams so much.
Well, if you look at the last 10, sorry, Chris, I'll just put this real quick. Dallas 4-3-3 in their last 10. Chicago 6-4. St. Louis 6-4. Chicago 4-5-1, and they've gone into the death spiral.
You were actually thinking same thing I was, Landy. That's exactly what I was about to read off as well. I was looking at their last 10. Yeah, definitely. I mean, right now, I think the Pacific top 3 are definitely hotter than the Central top 3. If you just look at, in the Pacific, the worst is Anaheim. That's 6-3-1 in their last 10. So the top of the Pacific is definitely hotter, and I think it's good to go into the playoffs on. I remember there was an article a couple years ago showing that teams that end the season strong going to the playoffs tend to be the ones that perform the best, because if you start, we've seen the Sharks, those times they mass a huge record in October, November, December, and January, tank down in February, then kind of pick it back up a bit in the last 2 months. We've seen that so many times, right? And usually those teams, while they have tons of points, are kind of flat in the playoffs. So it's good to be going strong in the playoffs, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And just kind of looking at it, the Sharks and everybody else in the division has games in hand on the Central. So, what, this first round of the playoffs is going to be something magical, because you're either going to have Chicago, St. Louis duke it out in the first round with a Dallas Dallas, Colorado, that's okay. But then you go over to the Pacific where it's Nashville, Los Angeles, Anaheim, San Jose. You know what? If you're coming out of the West, nobody's going to tell you that you got to the Cup easily, because you're going to have to face either a California team in the conference final or some superpower Central team, and this is going to be really fun. You know, that Colorado Dallas matchup is a little intriguing, because those are both teams that really like to play fast, and it's just going to be good. I'm excited.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, no matter it's going to be just nonstop hockey for once the playoffs hit for me, because there's just so many interesting matchups, especially in the West. I think there's going to be some good matchups in the East, but the West, everything's going to be like, there's no series so far that I'm looking at and saying, okay, well that's done in 5 games. Like, they all look like they could go the distance, and they all look like they're going to be just solid series.
You're just like, hockey.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hockey.
Yeah, because Canadians aren't going to watch hockey because there's no Canadian teams, right? Now I'm going to watch all of the fucking hockey.
Yeah, it's pretty hilarious, but the combined California teams probably have more Canadians on them than a lot of Canadian teams, so it's pretty funny. But let's kind of shift focus a little bit to individual performance awards on the Sharks. We saw another dominant game by Jonas Donskoi tonight, and boy, guys, he's just been a breath of fresh air, kind of being similar to Melker Karlsson last year, where he just kind of came out of nowhere and put up some really good points. But that pass tonight behind the net, that was very Thornton-esque. Remind me of a young Joe.
Oh yeah, he's been a gem this season. Like, he's like the guy. Like, I haven't heard that much talk about him nationally, and he's quietly amassed a really, really nice season. And I mean, this is his first season here. I'm excited about that for sure.
Yeah. No, I mean, Donskoi is, I like when people make me look smart, and Donskoi definitely made me look smart, because, before training camp even started, he was the guy that I said that we all needed to watch just going into training camp, let alone, making it out of training camp on the team. But the thing I like about Donskoi the most is that he's doing this in the bottom 6, whereas I think Karlsson, a lot of people are kind of down on Karlsson right now, but if you kind of looked at Karlsson, you kind of saw that he was going to fit better into a bottom 6 role than a top 6 role, and he played, and obviously he got a lot of points from being on the benefit of being with Thornton, Pavelski last year. But I feel like I think that people, if Donskoi has a tiny slip next year, I don't think people are going to be as hard because of where he's getting his production mostly from, and that's been in the bottom 6 most of the year.
Well, you know what? It's very interesting, because Donskoi is playing like a playmaking center. He's really the playmaker on that line, and he's got 2 finishers in Karlsson and Couture, which I think is a better position for him to be in versus playing with Pavs and Jumbo, because Jumbo is a possession monster. He wants to bring that puck into the zone. He wants to be the one dishing, making up those plays and setting it up. Whereas Jonas is a winger, but he's playing that playmaker's style, and he's playing it as a winger, which, in my opinion, is more difficult, because the center has, the center lane into the ice. He's got the most vision. He normally plays either up on the boards or behind the net, dishing out in front. But you've got Jonas, who's doing the yeoman's work on the boards and getting behind the net and really setting up Couture and Karlsson. And it's been a pleasure to see that line just put together and be stuck with
that lineup.
If you're talking minutes for forward, he's actually one of the highest on the team this game. He played 15 minutes. A lot of guys, Hurdle played less. Karlsson, obviously, he just right behind Pavelski. So he's putting in a lot of minutes too. So good quality minutes, and that's important.
Yeah.
How much of that was because I think he's playing pretty much everything, right? He's penalty killing, he's power play.
No shorthanded time, but he did have 2 minutes on the power play as well.
There you go.
And now a good point with the power play. We saw the second unit score again. This unit put together by DeBoer, fairly early on in the season, but now we're really starting to see it gel with Ward kind of getting his mojo back. You've got Thornton, you've got Jonas Donskoy playing the playmaker's position, and you've got Hurdle, who's really playing that power forward kind of game. Guys, that's a good second little unit they've got going on.
Probably the most memorable second unit we've seen in, I don't know, a decade or more. I don't remember the last time I thought the second unit was really, like, we've seen time with potential good units. Like, there's one a couple years ago, I remember, if Havelock could have stayed healthy. But, yeah, it's probably the most impressive second unit we've seen in a while, and it's really coming together. And if the first unit gets their game on point going to the playoffs and the second unit's going, could be really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got that second unit really pushing up on that first unit. You know, basically, DeBoer has no qualms now sending out that second unit at the beginning of a power play and say, hey, boys, you know what? The first unit's kind of lagging a little bit. You pick them up. And they've done it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I completely agree.
So I guess shifting over now, let's talk a little bit about the Wookiee himself, making his case for the Norris. I posted it on Twitter. Wookiee for Norris. That's my campaign. It's not Burns for Norris. It's Wookiee for Norris. What do you guys think about Brent Burns winning it all with the Norris this year?
Based on point production, Carlson is ahead, though he does play 3 more minutes a game based on what I've looked at the numbers. So maybe he has a shot. Also, he doubles up Carlson in goals, though, 26-13. So I don't really know. I would have to look back at all the past voting and how it's always gone. But I would say he's at least in the conversation, and that's something right there, right?
He should probably at this point get a nomination. I don't think he's going to win it. I mean, it's just unfortunate, but you know, East Coast bias is a real thing. People watch Erik Karlsson more than they watch Brent Burns. It is what it is.
Yeah, I also posted on Twitter that I need a GoFundMe account to buy some National Hockey Writers Association votes. See if we can stuff that ballot for Burnsy.
You need to give them some caffeine pills so they can stay up and watch the game.
Yeah, but I actually kind of found it a little funny because Drew Doughty is really, I mean, a lot of the national writers are putting forward Drew Doughty as the front runner for the Norris. He's not having nearly as good an offensive year as Burns is, and Burns has emerged from his minus 18 that he was rocking for a little while, and now he's only a -1. I mean, if he can get to a +5, maybe a +10.
Yeah, the thing with Doughty.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say the thing with Doughty, though. I mean, considering the subtractions from that blue line, I mean, Doughty's basically trying to hold that whole thing together with duct tape, like him and Muzzin basically are trying to hold that whole thing together with duct tape. I think that's why he's probably getting such a nod, because the Kings are as they are, and their defense, let's be honest, isn't really that good. Just like when you look at like who's on that D-core, I don't think they're that great.
What I was going to say there was, while plus minus really isn't a good stat to judge players on, you know, we've been over this many times.
Yes.
The voters still do, I'm pretty sure. Like, it does, whether it's a good stat or not, they still look at it. You know, it's like wins in baseball. Even if it's really a shitty stat to judge how well a pitcher played, they look at it, and in the voting it matters. So yes, it does matter that Burns is out of that plus-minus hole, because he was in a pretty bad hole. Although Carlson right now has the same plus-minus as Burns, so that's pretty much a wash.
Yeah, I mean, I'm serious, guys. If these guys take at least a minute to look at the stats a little bit deeper and to see the kind of defensive turnaround that Burns has put in, let's say since January, I think there's a good case. I mean, I would not be surprised if he finishes second in the Norris. I really believe that. I think he's actually got a good shot to win it, depending on where the Sharks end up in the playoffs. I mean, if the Sharks make a run to the Stanley Cup, I don't see how they can't give it to him.
Also, Burns is playing on a playoff team, and Carlson is not, so that also whether it's correct or not, that will influence the voting.
And you think I'd like to see. I'd have to do some quick math here, but I'd be curious to see how much of Ottawa's output offensively is Carlson.
Yeah, is he the motor of that team? And then I would
And I would
venture to
argue,
guess yes. Yeah.
In a lot of ways, though, Thornton's motor number one. Burns is probably number two, though. Those are probably the two biggest drivers of points on this team.
You know, we all lamented. I lamented the fact that we were missing the bowling ball up front. But Doug Wilson had the plan of, hey, you know what? We can get Burns more minutes on the back end. He is a difference maker wherever he plays. If we can get him influencing the game more, any way that he can, it's going to be a good thing. And you guys heard Randy and Bakes give props to Bob Bugner. You know, really. Spending the time with the defense and the defensive acumen of Burns has really turned around in the second half. Got to give it up to Boogie, man.
So if you look at just going back to the Erik Karlsson thing for a second, Karlsson has 73 points. The next closest scorer in points is Mark Stone with 58.
This is on, of course, Ottawa. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, he's significantly. For a defenseman, he significantly has the load offensively for, 60 assists, 13 goals, 73 points. He doesn't have he's not obviously scoring all the goals, but he's a significant part of that offense. Obviously, he has, almost double the assists that Stone has, double the assists than anyone else in the team that even comes close. So I can see why they would use that for his Norris coronation.
Well, I mean, the other thing that we got to look at, too, which is kind of interesting, but our leading goal scorer, Joe Pavelski, has 188 shots on goal. He's shooting at a 17% clip right now. We'd all kind of say that that's very non-sustainable.
It's unsustainable is what it is.
Yeah, it's unsustainable. But Brent Burns has almost double at 303. 303 shots. I mean, at last count, he was second in the NHL on the Ovechkin.
Yeah, I mean, that's because he shoots a lot. Like, you give him a one-timer, he will take that one-timer. So I just ran the numbers real quick. Burns is 30% of our output. Karlsson is 35% of Ottawa's output. So not that far off of each other. And I think, if you're looking at playoff team versus non-playoff team, I think it's more impressive to be 30% of a playoff team's output than being 35% of a crappy team's output, just in my opinion.
Well, and especially when you have offensively dominant players like Joe Thornton and Joe Pavelski, and you're still 30% of the team's output. That's pretty nuts.
Yeah.
Boys, we're starting to look at the point spread now amongst the Sharks. We have 7 players with 39 points or more. And the 7th player with 39 points is Marc-Edouard Vlasic. I mean, the balance on this team is something we haven't seen in a long time.
It's funny because I remember earlier in the year when I was writing about, I think it was a pregame I wrote when we were playing the Red Wings, and I was talking about how the Red Wings obviously have done such a better job of building from within than the Sharks have. And I remember the homegrown player under 25 that had the most points on the team because of the injury to Logan Couture, obviously, and I wrote offensive dynamo Marc-Edouard Vlasic, and then, of course, now he's just been awesome the rest of the year.
Yeah, this is his best season, I think, ever points-wise. The other thing that comes to balance also is what we mentioned earlier about the minutes. Like, when I was looking at the minutes with Donskoy and comparing him to everyone else, the lowest amount was Nick Spalling, that had 12 minutes. So he was the least amount of minutes, and the most, I think, was Pavelski with like 16 or something like that. So the minutes are pretty evenly distributed as well, that we're actually truly rolling 4 lines. No more Mike Brown for 5 minutes and Michael Haley for 4 minutes. No more of that nonsense. I think Couture's been a big part of that, returning some balance to this team. But top to bottom, you guys like Tierney are making a difference. Wingle's made an impact today. You're having guys up and down the lineup making big impacts, and that's been huge.
Well, I think Wingles, he's trying to hold his spot for dear life now because he was healthy for 2 games and got healthy scratched because they just didn't want to, with Nick Spalling coming over and Nieto being good, they didn't really have a spot to put him back in. So I mean, it's good to see that. It's good to see that guys are actually afraid for their spots and actually, they're going to come out and give it every game to see how many, to make sure that they can stay in the lineup.
Yeah, health has definitely helped there because now we're no longer so strapped for warm bodies that we have to play someone like Mike Brown. That they have the luxury of being able to scratch someone like Tommy Wingles if they feel the need to do so. They actually have guys they trust, and said guys are competing. It isn't just well, I'm a warm body, they'll put me out there for the bottom six because they got no one else.
Yeah, because even Dick Spaulding too had a hell of a game tonight, I thought.
Oh yeah, no, I think those bottom lines of Spaulding and Tierney centering those third and fourth lines had a hell of a game, and just kind of going through it, running through the stats. Through 71 games, we have 11 players with 8 or more goals. 11. I mean, I can't remember a more balanced Sharks team than this in a very long time. Maybe that 9-10 team, that 09-10 team, but this is awesome to see. We now got Martin Jones with a 2.26 goals against and a 919 save percentage, 35 wins. I mean, we're having great goaltending, and James Reimer is 937 save percentage with a 1.69 goals against. Mind you, he's only got 3 games played, but this team is firing on all cylinders at the right time, and it was just even more awesome to see them do it without the key defensive cog out tonight.
Yeah, missing Vlasic, there's only one. Yeah, I barely noticed too. Yeah, like you said, but there's only like 1 or 2 real gaffes on defense. One which we haven't really touched, the whole Dylan sliding Marlowe lack of effort bit, but
I hate when my controller gets unplugged.
Yeah. My one thought on that was Marlowe, if you looked at his third period minutes, they didn't look like Pete DeBoer had an issue with the explanation he was given on the bench, so I don't know what happened there. I know Marlowe had been knocked down, so I'm going to give, in my opinion, I'll give the benefit of the doubt there that something had happened, because I think DeBoer didn't restrict his minutes in the third. He clearly trusted him with more minutes.
I believe what the telecast was saying was that he was arguing too many men on the ice for the New York Rangers during that breakdown. I mean, Patrick Marleau did not backcheck hard. It wasn't a good thing to see. I think Dylan going with a Burnsy slide there was not a good idea. I mean, he should have stood his man up or given the shot, let the shot go, and take out Boyle. I mean, because you want to give the goalie the shooter, and you take out the pass. He did neither with that Burnsy slide.
Yeah, that was a pretty awful thing. Yeah, they always say like at least take one of the 2 away, and he didn't take either one away. No. That was, I mean, and you just knew though the second that happened, AJ and were like, Dylan.
Yeah, I said
there was no fight between him and Rocket.
I said, Jesus, Dylan, don't go down. Like I said, I think that his game, I think he needs somebody a little bit more steady than Roman Polak to really be effective. I mean, I think right now they're gelling, and I think they're gelling better than they did when they first got Polak. But still, it gives me a little bit of a cringe when I see Polak and Dylan out there and they're hemmed in their own zone, not being able to get the puck up. I really like the calming influence that DeMello has with any of his partners. We saw it again tonight with Braun and DeMello. DeMello is just like that sturdy little rock out there, and he was playing a pretty damn good impression of Vlasic. And it was nice to see Pete DeBoer not restrict his minutes. Pete DeBoer is known as a coach that doesn't trust rookies. He trusted his rookie with almost 18 minutes worth of ice time tonight, and DeMello rewarded Pete DeBoer's faith in him. Really, we haven't seen a really good homegrown defensive prospect in a while, but DeMello, man, he's starting to change my mind a little bit by little bit.
Yeah, DeMello. Go ahead. Okay, I was gonna say, yeah, DeMelo's been my, like, if you want to talk about surprises this year, DeMelo's been my big surprise. Like, he's my breakout star of the year for sure, because I didn't expect a ton from DeMelo. I thought, okay, he's gonna be an okay, sixth, seventh guy, and the way he was able to step in and eat up some minutes tonight and play beside Braun, and I thought, we've seen, Braun looked pretty decent tonight too, and we've seen, how terrible Braun sometimes manages to look without Vlasic, on his flanks. So, big credit to that guy, man. And a lot of people, when we acquired Pollock, were kind of like, well, why did we do this? We could be fine. We have guys that can fill that role. Why have we done this? And yeah, maybe some of those guys are they might have something. They might be onto something.
Well, insurance policy is part of it
For
too,
sure.
Because one or two injuries. I mean, we're nursing injury right now, but one or two injuries, and you never know. So it's better, especially when we've seen how bad this defense can be at times, early in the season at least. So I think it's a good insurance policy to have.
Oh yeah, I mean, and especially when you're talking about a team that still has Barclay Goodrow in the minors, that still has Mirko Mueller in the minors. Now, of course, you want those guys playing every day, so you don't want to call them up. But going to the playoffs, you're going to have a nice little contingent of players who've played, who have experience, and can fill in. Now, whether or not they're going to be just warm bodies or they're going to be really good fill-ins, that's tough to say. But DeMelo is really proving his mettle out there.
Mm-hmm.
We know that Gaudreau can play well, and Mueller, for all of his faults, he has played in the NHL and he does have experience. So, this is a team that has some depth and have some balance, and it's nice to see, because it's not just that first line and done. It's not first line and drop off. I mean, the first line is the motor of this team still, but you've got a second, a third, and a fourth line that you put them up against anybody, against their own competition. They slide very well, and they match up very favorably.
I think you touched on one of the other good things about what DeMelo's done, is he's allowed us to have Mirko Mueller at the Barracuda,
Mm-hmm.
stay in the Barracuda, get that seasoning, because we don't want to ruin him. I'm already a little worried about his prospects with the way we brought him along so far, but being able to keep him in the Barracuda and let him get that seasoning there, and then eventually when he gets another chance at the big club, hopefully that'll really pay dividends.
Let's shift over to the chat a little bit. Cody, we weren't ignoring. We were just kind of going off a little bit on a tangent. Sorry. Okay, so wondering why we're losing BS games, and Kenji also is pulling that, well, not pulling, but also on that train as well. The Coyotes game, I mean, I don't want to really rehash it, but it was poorly officiated, and I will say that it was also a breakdown in the NHL. I'm having deja vu here because I feel like we've said this before, but it's a breakdown in the NHL process of reviewing goals. That last goal in 2 minutes should have been reviewed for signs of goalie interference. DeBoer shouldn't have used his challenge early because it was a very marginal kind of play. So I think you had a lot of different factors go into that Coyotes loss. You also can't deny the fact that you had your best defensive defenseman out for half of the third period. So did it suck? Yeah, it did suck. Did I feel like the Sharks were playing well though? Yeah, I did. I thought that they played well enough to win that game, or at least gain a point out of that game.
Yeah, those who have followed me for a long time now know that I generally mock the NHL hates the Sharks fans, the ones that are just like always like, oh well, the NHL hates us, of course, this is what happened, and generally I'm the first to mock those people, but this last game, I mean, the officiating was atrocious. So when I'm calling the officiating atrocious, there's usually something to it.
Yeah, I would go against those conspiracy theories too, because if they're going to hate the Sharks, they're probably not going to favor the Coyotes, realistically. But
Right.
I mean, teams like the Coyotes and the Devils, they play a lot of that. Well, if you're a clearly inferior team, they are.
Yes.
They played a lot of that, muddy it up, block shots.
Just trap.
Try and keep the game close and hope your goaltender can steal it for you, because they pretty clearly outplayed the Coyotes. I advocate they outplayed the Devils as well. Not everyone agrees with me, but they had a lot of shots. They had a lot of quality shots there, and sometimes that's how it goes. I think partially it's breaks because today the breaks were not going their way. Lundqvist very well could have stolen this game just the same way Mike Smith stole that last one, and
But the cool
that's how it goes sometimes, right?
They willed in some goals, though. The Sharks did not let Lundqvist get into their heads, which was the refreshing thing to see. But with that Devils game and with that Buffalo game, they were coming off of road trips. And I know everybody they just hate the excuse that the guys were tired and, that you can never use tiredness as an excuse. But let's face it, folks. The Sharks have the most mileage among any teams in the NHL. Of course you're going to be tired. If you've got to be crisscrossing the country 5 hours here, 5 hours there, it's understandable to understand why they have a horrible record the first game back from a long road trip and just have an incredibly great rebound success right after with the next game home.
Yeah, I want to jump in here for a second, just because something Vince G said in the chat here. The one thing too you have to consider is obviously we're not going to go 82-0. We're going to lose games, and some of them we're just not going to look good. Some nights you have it, and some nights you don't. Do the Sharks consistently seem to have it against bad teams? I think there's a mild little bit of confirmation bias on that. But Vince G asking about the officiating topic, because he said correctly on the broadcast that there were select games tonight where the officiating crews are being monitored by the league. Yeah, especially this time of year, you're going to see that happen because for those that don't know, refereeing in the playoffs is basically based on your performance. So they look at your entire body of work during the regular season, and then they will pick their officiating staff for each round. And then as the teams get less and the games get less, only the best officials, according to the league, are the ones that are going to get through to the Stanley Cup Finals and continue working.
Yeah, they're basically scouting the refs right now. I think that's why you saw a lot of the ticky-tack kind of calls tonight, and you didn't see any of the more subjective calls where you could have said, oh, he's got a roughing here, or oh, he's got a goalie interference there. I think they let the boys play a little bit, and it wouldn't surprise me if they kind of had the idea that, hey, we're getting scouted tonight, guys. Let's try and call it to the book as best as we can, and let's err on the side of let them play.
Yeah, so one other thought on on them playing down to bad teams or whatever. I'm going to make Gen X mad here. Actually, I don't know if he's watching, so actually, yeah, he is. I'm going to make Gen X mad here, and I'm going to refer to another sport. But the Warriors right now are probably about to go down as the greatest regular season team in basketball history. And take a look at who their 6 losses are to. They're to the Mavericks. They're to the Bucks. They're to absolute garbage teams. The Lakers blow them out. So even the best teams and even the greatest teams of all time do lose to bad teams. It's like Ian said, you don't go 82-0, and you're not only going to lose to teams that are better than you. It's not that simple. You're going to have nights where, because of your play, because of the reffing, because of the opposing play, because of the goaltender, any number of factors, often combining, you're going to have those disappointments. It's just part of the game.
Yeah, and I don't want to take away from any fans' emotional connection and emotional upheaval about games that we lose, because you guys know me. I'm pretty passionate about when these guys play and when I feel like they're taking a night off and when they're not. That Coyotes game, they weren't taking a night off. I was more pissed off about the calls and the non-calls that the Sharks, were seemingly not getting or getting, and when they lose, it's not a good feeling, and these guys don't take it lightly when they lose. I can tell you that, but it's good to see them not go into long, prolonged slumps, though. I think that this team has shown that it's kind of immune to those 4 or 5 game losing streaks we saw last year.
Look right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just really a 180-degree difference about if they have a bad game, they come out the next game and they put a lot of effort in. I don't think we've seen a back-to-back bad effort outing by this team. Have you guys? I might be wrong here, but what do you guys think?
The 2 most recent really bad effort games I felt were there was one against the Flames a few weeks ago that they managed to win by pure luck. Honestly, they did not deserve to win that one. And then there's that one early in the year against Winnipeg. But there haven't been a lot of really games where it wasn't just they lost, but I get more discouraged when they lose and it's a clear bad effort. They didn't deserve to even be in the game. Those are the ones that frustrate me the most. Because I can tolerate a loss where they played well because I know eventually that all comes back to you. If you play well, even in losses, you'll eventually get things going your direction.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. So I guess let's kind of look ahead a little bit into the schedule. We've got the Coyotes tomorrow night at 7, which we kind of all talked about a little bit. But after the Coyotes, then we go, let's see, Sharks are at home against the Blues, and then home against the Oilers, home against the Stars, home against the Kings. So
here's your chance to get above 500 at home right there.
Exactly. Exactly. I think the big guys that you've got to really worry about are the Blues, the Stars, and the Kings. However, the Sharks have played well against the Blues this year. That definitely hasn't been like 2012 where they just got rocked.
No.
Sharks have, it's the Oilers, and, we'll see where they're at. And the Stars, who are kind of in a free fall, and we will be getting the Stars without Tyler Seguin, which is just, it's a miracle that we won't be seeing arguably their best player. So, I look at the schedule and I say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games at home. They should win at least 3 of those.
Yeah, win 3 of those, get above 500. You only have 3 road games left on the year, and then aside from these 5, you also have 3. After these 5, you'll have 3 road games, 3 home games. We know they're making the playoffs. It's just a matter of can they take advantage of all these home games to pull ahead of the Ducks or the Kings, or maybe both. I mean, if they keep pace until that Kings game, they might have a chance to actually overtake them. But if they're like 2-2 or something like that, probably not.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that if the Kings lose tonight and they can get back within 5 again, there's an outside chance. If the Kings win tonight and they keep that 7-point spread, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
Let's go over the injury report just a little bit. We've got some updates on Marc-Edouard Vlasic. His is a day-to-day with a lower body injury. I think we all saw it was the Doan check into the boards on his knee. Probably a bruised knee, or it could be some kind of bruised thigh or something like that. It looked kind of up in the upper region of his leg. Thank God it was not like a torn ligament. Yeah, because I think when they went silent for about 36 hours there, we were kind of like, oh God, are they silent because they just don't have any updates, or are they silent because this is going to be the end of his season? So Marc-Edouard Vlasic, day-to-day. We'll see if he draws up in the lineup tomorrow. I doubt it. But, we never know with the Sharks. Maybe I'm looking either at that Blues game or that Oilers game is when we could possibly see Vlasic again. Why put him in tomorrow? It's the Coyotes. DeMello played a really good game. I'd say bring him back for that Blues or that Oilers game. Now, Matt Nieto is a little bit different. Pete DeBoer spoke on him, saying that he expects him at or before the playoffs start. He's also listed as day-to-day, which tells me he either has a massive sprain in his hand or he's got some kind of fracture, because it might be like a small hairline.
Yeah, probably a fracture if I had to guess. I mean, also, I don't think they have a strong incentive to push either of those guys too hard. They know they're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
They know even without them, this team can still win. So don't rush them back. I'd rather us have a 3 seed than a 2 seed if it means those guys are healthy and ready to go come playoff time. And I think that's probably would be their thinking too.
Yeah, I mean, heck, even you could just even wait till the Kings game a week from now, and really that's when you would probably want Marc-Edouard back in the lineup. So I would say if you're looking at 2, depending on how the injury is, I'd say either that Blues game is the one I would circle, or the Kings game, depending on how conservative they want to play. And as far as Nieto goes, I expect probably first round of playoffs. You've got Tommy Wingles. You want to get him some games and some reps. I think it's good for him.
with Wingles and Spalling, I mean, there's no reason to rush Nieto back into the lineup. Those spots are in good hands, unless we, heaven forbid, suffer another injury in the bottom six. I don't, or even anywhere in the forward ranks, I don't see there's any rush to get Nieto back in the lineup. And I like what Nieto brings as far as a lot of more of his defensive intangibles, but you don't need to rush him.
No,
Yeah, and Nieto's biggest asset is his speed, and that's not something that's going to go away while he's sitting nursing a hand injury. So come playoff time, I mean, that's his biggest asset for us, is being able to push play up ice quickly, and like you said, his defensive game. So not worried about that.
No, I totally agree. And Vince was asking about Sagan's Achilles heel. He did post a picture on Twitter, or actually on Instagram. I don't know exactly which social media platform he used.
Yeah.
But it was a bad tear. He said, I hate paper cuts. From what I heard, he has a 15% tear in his Achilles heel.
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying first round of the playoffs is when he'll be back. And now that's hyper realistic.
That's
hyper optimistic. Yeah.
I don't think so. I doubt it.
Unless they're gonna. I mean, I'm sure they've got ways to fix it. I've always been a strong proponent of, because obviously there's some doping in hockey, and I think when you look at how fast some of these guys come back, maybe they should be testing the injured guys and not the guys that are playing.
Well, I mean, I think we have seen a lot of doping being caught this year, though. I think more than in recent history. Chris, did you have something to say? I'm sorry.
No. You guys covered it pretty well there.
Well, so I guess this is kind of wrapping us up here. The Sharks go on to win against the Rangers 4-1 tonight. They had a great game, a 3-assist night by Tomas Hertl. You had goals by Pavelski, Ward with 2, and Jumbo with 1. Brent Burns fails to break Ozzy's record. He's still tied with Ozzy with 64 points. But I think it's inevitable, and I think we'll see Burnsy with a 70-point year before this is all said and done. For Ian Reed and Chris JWS, I just want to say thank you for tuning in. If you haven't already, please subscribe at the bottom. There is a little tab. It's either on the right side of the video at the bottom to subscribe to us. Check out Pucknology.net. That is our official webpage. We've got blog posts. We've got a great post by Thomas Owen on Sharks 365. You guys should really check that out. We've got the managing editor of Pucknology.net, Mr. Ian Reed here. So if you guys have any questions or have any comments or want to see something covered that we haven't covered, please shoot him either a DM or some kind of message on social media.
Smoke signals. Whatever.
Chris JWS, of course, is also a producer for us as well. He runs the show in the background. He pulls the strings, so to speak, kind of Godfather style. And tomorrow night, we will probably have Puck Guy hosting with AJ and maybe even Gentry joining the show tomorrow night. But please check them out, and thank you so much. And it was great game, and Sharks keep on trucking.